The crumpled phone number stared up at Brooke Gallagher like a message from another lifetime. The ink faded, but still legible on the scrap of paper she just pulled from a box marked "Childhood Memories" in her mother's cramped handwriting. She sat cross-legged on the hardwood floor of her childhood bedroom, dust motes dancing in the afternoon light streaming through the window, and felt something tighten in her chest as she recognized the name scrawled above the digits in her own teenage handwriting. Aaron Zimmerman. Her best friend from the neighborhood, the boy who'd lived 3 houses down, who taught her to climb trees and skip stones at the creek behind the elementary school. They'd been inseparable until his family moved away when they were both 14, promising to stay in touch, but losing contact the way kids always seemed to do before social media became ubiquitous. She'd thought about him over the years, wondered where life had taken him, but had never managed to track him down through the usual online channels. Brooke held the paper between her fingers, debating. She was 28 now, back in her hometown of Millbrook, helping her mother sort through decades of accumulated belongings before the big move to a smaller condo. Her own life felt equally cluttered lately, a mess of abandoned dreams and stalled ambitions. She'd been working as a hotel events coordinator in Chicago for the past 5 years, organizing corporate conferences and wedding receptions, smiling through the monotony while her own plans to open a small boutique hotel somewhere scenic gathered dust in a notebook. The number probably didn't even work anymore. 14 years was a long time, but something made her pull out her phone anyway, fingers hovering over the keypad as she typed in the digits. What was the worst that could happen? A disconnected tone, maybe someone else answering to tell her she had the wrong number. At best, maybe she'd reconnect with an old friend, have a few laughs about the good old days. She pressed call before she could overthink it further. The line rang once, twice. Brooke almost hung up, suddenly feeling foolish. Then a voice answered, deep and polished and nothing like the cracking adolescent tone she remembered from their last conversation. Aaron Zimmerman speaking. Her breath caught. That voice carried authority, the kind that came with boardrooms and important decisions. "Aaron," she managed, her own voice sounding small and uncertain. "This is going to sound completely crazy, but this is Brooke Gallagher. We were friends when we were kids in Millbrook. I just found your old number in a box, and I don't know what possessed me to actually call, but Brooke." The professional edge vanished from his tone, replaced by something warm and almost disbelieving. "Brooke from Maple Street? No way." Relief flooded through her, and she found herself smiling. "Yes. I can't believe this number still works. I figured it would be disconnected or belong to someone else by now." He laughed, a rich sound that made her stomach do an odd little flip. "I've had the same cell number since I was 16. My assistant keeps telling me I should get a different line for business, but I'm stubborn about some things. I can't believe you're calling. How are you? How long has it been?" 14 years, Brooke said, leaning back against her old bed frame. "I'm back in Millbrook helping my mom pack up the house. Found your number in a box of old school stuff. I hope this isn't weird, me calling out of the blue like this." "Are you kidding? This is the best call I've gotten in months, maybe years." His enthusiasm sounded genuine, not polite. "What are you doing tonight? Are you free for dinner?" Brooke blinked, caught off guard by the immediate invitation. "Tonight? You're in Millbrook." "No, I'm in New York, but I can be there in a few hours, unless that's too forward. I'd really love to see you, catch up properly." "We have 14 years to cover." Something in his eagerness made her throw caution aside. Her mother was having dinner with friends anyway, and she'd been facing another evening of sorting through boxes and memories alone. "Okay," she heard herself say. "Yes, where should I meet you?" "Do you remember that Italian place downtown, Giovanni's? Is it still there? It is. They renovated a few years ago, but it's still good. Perfect. 7 o'clock. I'll make a reservation. After they hung up, Brooke sat staring at her phone, wondering what had just happened. She'd called on impulse, expecting nothing, and somehow ended up with dinner plans. With Aaron Zimmerman, her childhood best friend who apparently could drop everything and drive several hours on a weeknight for dinner. Who had an assistant, whose voice carried the weight of someone accustomed to being in charge. She glanced at the clock. 3 hours to make herself presentable and figure out what you wore to dinner with a ghost from your past. Giovanni's had indeed been renovated since Brooke had last eaten there. The red checkered tablecloths replaced with cream linens and modern light fixtures. She arrived 10 minutes early, nervous energy making her legs restless, and was surprised when the hostess immediately greeted her by name. "Miss Gallagher." Mr. Zimmerman called ahead. "He's running a few minutes late but asked that we seat you. Right this way, please." The hostess led her to a corner booth with a perfect view of the downtown square through tall windows. Brooke ordered water and tried not to fidget with her napkin, second-guessing her choice of a simple navy dress and minimal makeup. What if they had nothing to talk about? What if the easy friendship of childhood didn't translate to adulthood at all? Then the door opened, and a man walked in who made every head in the restaurant turn. Aaron Zimmerman had grown into himself in ways that 14-year-old Aaron could never have predicted. He stood well over 6 feet, broad-shouldered in a tailored charcoal suit he'd somehow made casual by losing the tie and unbuttoning his collar. Dark hair, the same almost black she remembered, but styled now with casual precision. Strong jaw, high cheekbones, and those same startling gray eyes that had always seemed too serious for a kid. But when those eyes found her across the restaurant, his entire face transformed with a smile so genuine it erased her nervousness completely. "Brooke." He crossed to the table in long strides, and before she could decide whether to shake hands or hug, he'd pulled her into an embrace that felt like coming home. He smelled expensive, like cedar and something crisp she couldn't name, and the hug lasted just long enough to be meaningful without crossing into awkward. When they pulled apart and sat, she took in the full picture of him and shook her head. "You grew up. You too. Though you look exactly like I remember just." He gestured vaguely. "More. More. Everything that was going to be beautiful about you actually happened," he said simply, then looked slightly embarrassed. "Sorry, that sounded smoother in my head." Brooke felt heat rise to her cheeks. It was pretty smooth, actually. Their waiter appeared, and Aaron ordered wine without looking at the menu, something Italian she didn't recognize, but that the waiter clearly approved of. When they were alone again, Aaron leaned forward, elbows on the table, giving her his complete attention in a way that felt almost overwhelming. "Tell me everything," he said. "Where did you go? What did you do?" "I tried to find you online a few times over the years, but there are apparently 1,000 Brooke Gallaghers in the world." So she told him about high school, about studying hospitality management in college, about her job in Chicago coordinating events at a major hotel chain. She downplayed the growing dissatisfaction, the feeling of being stuck on someone else's track, but something in his expression said he heard it anyway. "And you?" she asked, deflecting attention back to him. "What do you do that lets you drop everything and drive here on a Wednesday night?" Something flickered across his face, almost like reluctance. "I'm in real estate development. My schedule's pretty flexible. Real estate development in New York. That sounds intense." "It can be." He took a sip of the wine that had appeared while they were talking. "But I like building things, creating spaces where people want to be. It's satisfying. Like hotels. Sometimes. I've done a few hotel projects, mixed-use developments mostly. Residential, commercial, hospitality combined. He shifted, clearly wanting to change the subject. Do you remember when we tried to build that treehouse in your backyard and nearly gave your mother a heart attack? Brooke laughed, grateful for the nostalgia. You fell and broke your arm. She felt so guilty even though she'd told us a dozen times to stop. Best broken arm of my life. You drew all over my cast, covered the whole thing in doodles and inside jokes. I kept it for years after they cut it off. You did not. I absolutely did. My mom finally made me throw it away when we moved to the next place, said it was collecting dust and germs. His smile turned wistful. I fought her on it. That cast was proof we'd existed, you know? That summer, that friendship. I didn't want to lose that. Something squeezed in Brooke's chest. We did exist. Those were some of the best years of my childhood. You made Millbrook feel like an adventure instead of just a small town. You made everywhere feel bigger than it was, Aaron said quietly. You saw magic in ordinary things. I loved that about you. Their eyes met and held, and Brooke felt the air between them shift into something charged and uncertain. This wasn't just old friends catching up. There was something else here, something that felt both brand new and like it had been waiting 14 years to surface. The waiter returned to take their order, breaking the moment. They both ordered pasta, easy choices, their attention clearly not on the food. When they were alone again, Aaron cleared his throat. I should probably be honest with you about something, he said, and Brooke's stomach dropped, bracing for a wife, a girlfriend, some complication. When I said I'm in real estate development, that's true but not complete. I own Zimmerman Global Development. We're one of the larger development firms in the Northeast. Brooke stared at him. She'd heard of Zimmerman Global, vaguely in the way you heard of major companies without paying much attention. Own as in. Founder and CEO. We went public 3 years ago. It's been successful beyond anything I imagined when I started the company at 22. He looked almost apologetic. I didn't want to lead with that because people get weird about it, but I don't want to be anything less than honest with you. How successful are we talking? Brooke asked, her head spinning. The company's valued at around $8 billion. My personal net worth is somewhere north of $3 billion, depending on the stock price. He said it matter-of-factly, the way someone else might state their height. I know that's a lot to process. That's why I usually don't bring it up right away. Brooke picked up her wine glass and took a long drink, needing a moment. Her childhood best friend, the boy who'd scraped his knees climbing trees and laughed too loud at terrible jokes, was a billionaire. An actual billionaire. I called your personal cell number, she said faintly. How does a billionaire CEO not have multiple phone numbers? I told you I'm stubborn about some things. That smile again, boyish despite the man he'd become. This number is mine. It's the one my friends have, the people I actually want to talk to. Everything else goes through my assistant or my office. But you called the real me, even if you didn't know it. This is insane, Brooke said, but she was smiling despite herself. I'm having dinner with a billionaire who I used to beat at Mario Kart. You cheated at Mario Kart. I did not. You were just a sore loser. You would tickle me during the hard turns. They were both laughing now, the strangeness of his revelation easing back into the comfortable rhythm they'd fallen into. Their food arrived, perfect pasta that Brooke barely tasted because she was too busy talking, listening, reconnecting with someone who felt simultaneously like a stranger and the person who knew her best. Aaron told her about building his company from nothing, about the risks and the near failures, and the moment everything clicked into place. He talked about his parents, who still lived modestly in Colorado despite his offers to buy them anything they wanted. About the loneliness that came with success, the difficulty of knowing whether people wanted him or his money. That's why tonight is so amazing, he said as they shared a tiramisu neither of them had room for. You called me not knowing any of that. You just wanted to reconnect with your friend. Do you know how rare that is in my life now? I don't think I've ever been someone's rare anything, Brooke admitted. Then no one's been paying attention. His eyes held hers again, intense and searching. I haven't been able to stop thinking about you since you called. That probably sounds crazy. We haven't seen each other in 14 years. It doesn't sound crazy, Brooke said softly, because her heart had been beating too fast all night, because sitting across from him felt right in a way nothing had felt right in a long time. This whole thing feels like fate or something. Me finding that number today, you actually answering, you being close enough to come here. I wasn't close enough. I was in Manhattan, but I would have flown from California if that's where I'd been when you called. He reached across the table, palm up, an invitation. I don't want this to be just dinner. I want to see you again. Get to know adult Brooke the way I knew kid Brooke. She placed her hand in his, feeling the warmth of his palm, the slight calluses that surprised her. You have calluses. I still work with my hands when I can on the actual construction sites. It keeps me grounded. His thumb brushed across her knuckles. Is that a yes, to seeing me again? Yes, Brooke said, the word coming easy, but I'm only here for another week helping my mom. Then I'm back to Chicago. Something flickered in his expression, determination maybe. Then I'll make the most of this week. What are you doing tomorrow? They made plans for lunch, and then Erin insisted on paying despite her protests, leaving cash that was probably triple the bill without even checking the total. He walked her to her car in the cooling evening air, hands in his pockets like he was restraining himself from reaching for her. I'm really glad you called, he said when they reached her old Honda in the parking lot. Me too. She unlocked the door but didn't get in, not ready for the night to end. This was the best impulse decision I've made in years. Call me impulsive more often. He leaned down and kissed her cheek, his lips warm against her skin, lingering just long enough to make her breath catch. Drive safe, Brooke. She got in her car and watched him walk to a sleek black Mercedes that looked like it cost more than her annual salary. As she drove back to her mother's house, she felt like she was floating, her mind replaying every moment of the evening, the way he'd looked at her, the way her name sounded in his voice, the casual mention of billions like they were just numbers while he'd seemed most excited about reconnecting with her. Her mother was already asleep when she got home, so Brooke lay in her childhood bed, staring at the glow in the dark stars she'd stuck to the ceiling at age 10, and tried to make sense of the strange turn her life had just taken. The next morning, she woke to a text message. Good morning. I'm picking you up at noon. Dress casual. I have a surprise. Brooke spent longer than necessary choosing an outfit, finally settling on jeans and a soft green sweater that brought out her eyes. When Erin pulled up exactly at noon in a different car, a Range Rover this time, she shook her head. How many cars do you have? She asked, climbing into the passenger seat. A few. I like cars. He grinned at her, looking younger in a Henley and jeans, his hair slightly less styled than last night. You look beautiful. You look different without the suit. Better or worse? Just different. Good different. She buckled her seatbelt. So where are we going? It's a surprise, remember? He pulled out of the driveway, heading east out of town. But I promise you'll like it. They drove through the countryside, fall colors painting the hills in amber and gold. Erin asked about her mother, about Millbrook, about her memories of growing up here. She asked about his company, careful questions that tried not to sound like she was Googling him in her head, which she absolutely had been for 2 hours that morning. The search results had been overwhelming. Articles about his business acumen, photos from charity galas where he posed with celebrities and politicians, Features in Forbes and Fortune about his rise from nobody to somebody. There was surprisingly little about his personal life, no string of supermodels or public relationships, just a few mentions of him attending events alone or with business associates. "You're being quiet," Aaron said, glancing over at her. "What are you thinking about?" "I might have Googled you this morning," she admitted. "And what did you learn?" "That you built something incredible, that you give a lot to charity, that People magazine named you one of the most eligible bachelors in America 2 years ago," he groaned. "I hated that article. Do you know how many ridiculous messages I got after that came out? Women throwing themselves at you. Poor baby. It's not like that. Well, it is, but not in a good way. They don't see me. They see the money, the status, whatever fantasy they've built up in their heads." He turned down a narrow dirt road she didn't recognize. "No one's wanted to beat me at Mario Kart in years. I mean, I still want to beat you at Mario Kart. See, this is why I like you." He pulled into a clearing and stopped the car, and Brooke gasped. They were at the old creek, the one behind the elementary school where they used to play. Except it wasn't just the creek anymore. Someone had built a small covered pavilion on the bank, with a picnic table and a stone fire pit. The water burbled over smooth rocks, reflecting the brilliant autumn sky. "How did you build this?" Brooke asked, climbing out of the car. "The town did, about 5 years ago. I donated the funds for it after I came back to visit and saw how run down everything had gotten. They named it Zimmerman Park, but I made them keep it low-key, just a small plaque. I didn't want it to be about me." He opened the back of the Range Rover, pulling out a large picnic basket. "I thought we could have lunch at our old spot." Emotion welled up in Brooke's throat. That he'd remembered this place, that he'd cared enough to preserve and improve it, that he'd thought to bring her here. "Aaron, this is too much." He looked suddenly uncertain. "I wanted to do something special, but I realized this might come across as showing off or—" "It's perfect," she interrupted, taking the blanket he handed her. "Absolutely perfect." They set up at the picnic table, and Aaron unpacked a lunch that looked like it had come from a high-end caterer. Gourmet sandwiches, fresh fruit, fancy chips, real plates and silverware. But he'd also included juice boxes, the same brand they'd drunk as kids, and Brooke laughed with delight when she saw them. "I figured we needed something authentic," he said, looking pleased with himself. They ate and talked, and then walked along the creek, pointing out the rocks they used to skip, and the tree they'd tried to dam up one summer until someone's dad made them stop. Aaron took her hand at some point, natural as breathing, and she let him, their fingers interlacing like they'd done this 1,000 times before. "Can I ask you something?" Aaron said as they sat on the bank, shoulders touching. "Last night you sounded kind of unfulfilled when you talked about your job. Are you happy in Chicago?" Brooke considered lying, giving him the standard answer she gave everyone else. But something about Aaron made her want to be honest. "No," she said quietly. "I'm not. I thought I wanted to work for a big hotel chain, climb the corporate ladder, but it all feels empty. I plan other people's dreams all day and come home too tired to pursue my own." "What are your dreams?" "I want to own a small boutique hotel somewhere beautiful. Not a chain, something intimate and personal where every detail matters, where guests feel like they're experiencing something special, not just a room and a bed." She picked up a pebble, turning it in her fingers. "I have notebooks full of ideas. Color schemes, menu concepts, the kind of art I'd hang in the hallways. But it's just fantasy. Do you know how much capital you need to start a hotel? I'd need investors, a business plan, and probably 10 more years of experience before anyone would take me seriously." "Or you need one investor who believes in you," Aaron said carefully. Brooke's stomach dropped. "No, Aaron, no, I wasn't telling you this to I don't want your money. I know you don't. That's not what I'm saying. He shifted to face her fully. But I invest in properties, Brooke. It's literally what I do. And I invest in people I believe in. If your idea is solid, if you're serious about this, I could help. Not as a handout, as a business partner. You don't even know if I'm any good at this. You coordinated events for one of the biggest hotel chains in the country. I'm guessing you're very good at this. His gray eyes were steady, serious. Think about it at least. I have a property portfolio that includes several locations that might work for a boutique hotel concept. We could look at them together if you want. No pressure, no obligation. Just exploring possibilities. It was too much, too fast. They'd reconnected less than 24 hours ago, and he was offering to potentially change her entire life. Why? She asked. Why would you do this for me? Because 14 years ago, a girl made me believe I could be more than I was, Aaron said simply. You told me I was going to do amazing things, be someone important. You said it so certainly that I couldn't help but believe you. When my dad lost his job and we had to move away, I was devastated because I lost you. But I held on to what you'd said, and it got me through a lot of hard years. Building my company, taking risks, believing I deserved success. You planted those seeds, Brooke. She stared at him, eyes stinging. I don't remember saying that. You did. The day before we moved, we were sitting right here and I was crying, which I tried really hard to hide because 13-year-old boys don't cry. But you saw anyway, and you told me it would be okay. That I was special and smart and going to do amazing things. That you knew it the way you knew the sun would rise. His voice had gone rough. I never forgot that. So yes, I want to help you chase your dream. Not because you need saving, but because you deserve the same chance you gave me to believe in myself. Brooke wiped at her eyes, laughing wetly. That's not fair. You can't say things like that and expect me not to cry. Come here. He pulled her into his arms and she went willingly, burying her face in his chest while he held her close. His heart beat steady under her ear, and his hand stroked her hair with gentle patience. We don't have to figure everything out today. Just don't dismiss the idea entirely. Promise. I promise, she whispered. They stayed at the creek until the afternoon light turned golden, talking about everything and nothing. Aaron told her about the loneliness of building an empire, the friends he'd lost to jealousy or suspicion, the women who'd wanted him for all the wrong reasons. Brooke told him about the string of mediocre relationships that had gone nowhere, about feeling stuck in a life she'd chosen but didn't actually want. We're a pair of successful disasters, she joked. Maybe we just needed to find each other again, he said, not joking at all. That evening, he took her to dinner at a small French restaurant an hour away, somewhere intimate and quiet where they could talk without interruption. He asked about her college years, her friends, her favorite books and movies. She asked about building his company, what motivated him, what scared him. Failure used to scare me, Aaron admitted over dessert. Now it's more about becoming the kind of person I wouldn't respect, getting so caught up in money and power that I lose sight of why I started this in the first place. Why did you start it? To build something permanent. My dad bounced between jobs my whole childhood and we moved constantly because of it. I wanted to create something stable, something that couldn't be taken away. He paused. And I wanted to prove that kid from Millbrook, the one whose dad lost his job and moved the family in the middle of the school year, could become someone worth knowing. You were always worth knowing, Brooke said fiercely. The money just made it louder. His expression softened. See, that's what I mean. You cut through all the noise and see what matters. I've missed that. I've missed you. You didn't even know you were missing me until yesterday. That's not true. I knew something was missing. I just didn't realize it was you until I heard your voice again. He reached across the table, taking her hand. "This is going to sound crazy, but I feel like I've been waiting for you to call for 14 years. Like some part of me always knew we weren't finished." Brooke's heart hammered against her ribs. "Aaron, too much too fast, I know. I'm coming on strong and probably scaring you away." He squeezed her hand gently. "But I don't believe in playing games or pretending I feel less than I do. I like you, Brooke. I want to see where this goes. And I know you're leaving in a few days, but New York and Chicago aren't that far apart. We could make it work if you wanted to try." She should be cautious. She should protect herself, take things slow, remember that they were essentially strangers now despite their shared past. But looking at him, feeling the warmth of his hand around hers, she didn't want to be careful. "I want to try," she said. His smile could have lit the entire restaurant. Yeah, this is crazy and probably a terrible idea, but I haven't been this happy in years. I don't want to walk away from that just because it's moving fast." Aaron stood up, pulling her with him, and kissed her right there in the middle of the restaurant. It was their first real kiss, not a peck on the cheek, but a full claiming of mouths that made her dizzy. He tasted like the chocolate dessert they'd been sharing and something uniquely him, and his hand cupped her face with a gentleness that contrasted with the intensity of the kiss itself. When they broke apart, Brooke was breathless, and every patron in the restaurant was staring at them. Aaron just grinned, unrepentant, and left cash on the table before leading her outside. "I've wanted to do that since you walked into Giovanni's last night," he said. "You should have done it sooner," Brooke replied, then pulled him down for another kiss under the stars. They spent the next 3 days together almost constantly. Aaron worked from his laptop in the mornings while Brooke helped her mother pack, but every afternoon he'd appear at the door with a new plan. They went to the tiny Millbrook movie theater and watched a rom-com in the mostly empty auditorium, making fun of the terrible dialogue, until they got shushed by the only other patrons. They drove to a neighboring town for a fall festival, where Aaron won her a stuffed elephant at the ring toss, and they ate too much kettle corn. They had dinner with Brooke's mother, who recognized Aaron instantly, and spent half the meal embarrassing Brooke with childhood stories. "You two were glued at the hip that summer before he moved," her mother said, smiling fondly. "I used to joke that you'd grow up and get married someday." "Mom," Brooke protested, mortified, but Aaron just laughed. "You might have been onto something, Mrs. Gallagher." At night, they'd drive to quiet places and talk for hours, kissing until Brooke's lips were swollen and her heart felt too big for her chest. They didn't sleep together, both of them seeming to understand without discussing it that they wanted to take that step seriously, not rush it in the compressed timeline of her visit. "I want to do this right," Aaron said one night, holding her close in the front seat of his car like they were teenagers. "You're not some casual thing to me, Brooke. You matter." On her last full day in Millbrook, Aaron picked her up early and drove them 2 hours north without explanation. They ended up at a beautiful property on a hillside overlooking a lake, a converted estate that had been sitting empty for the past year. "I own this," Aaron said as they walked through the grounds. "Bought it in a portfolio acquisition, but never had the right use for it. I kept it because it was too beautiful to develop into something soulless." He stopped, gesturing at the main house and the grounds around it, "but it would make an incredible boutique hotel." Brooke turned in a slow circle, taking in the elegant stone architecture, the mature trees, the views that stretched for miles. Her mind was already racing with possibilities. "This is stunning. 20 guest rooms in the main house, potential for another 10 in the carriage house. The grounds could accommodate a restaurant, maybe a spa, close enough to several major cities to draw weekend crowds but remote enough to feel like an escape." He pulled out his phone, showing her architectural plans someone had already drafted. I had my team draw up some concepts. Just preliminary to show you the potential. Aaron, this is. She couldn't find words big enough. Yours if you want it, he said. I'll provide the property and the capital. You provide the vision and the management. We split ownership 60-40 in your favor because it'll be your dream making this happen, not mine. I'm just the money guy. That's insane. I can't accept. It's not a gift, it's an investment. I believe in you and I believe in this. He took her hands. I'm not trying to buy you or save you or sweep you off your feet with money. I'm trying to partner with you on something I think could be amazing. You have the talent and the drive. I have the resources. Together we could build something really special. Brooke looked at the property, then back at him, and felt like she was standing at a crossroads. She could say no, protect herself, go back to Chicago and her safe, unsatisfying job. Or she could take a leap of faith with a man she'd known for 14 years and 4 days, and possibly change her entire life. I need to think about it, she said finally. This is huge, Aaron. It's not just business, it's tangled up with us and whatever this is becoming. If it fails, we keep the business and the personal separate. Clean contracts, clear expectations, professional boundaries during work hours. He smiled slightly. And then after work hours, we can be as tangled up as we want. You make it sound simple. Maybe it is. Maybe we're overcomplicating it because we're scared. He pulled her close. But I'd rather try and fail than spend my life wondering what if. Wouldn't you? She kissed him instead of answering, pouring all her fear and hope and want into it. When they finally pulled apart, she was shaking. Okay, she whispered. Let's do it. Let's build something amazing. His whoop of joy echoed across the hillside, and he spun her around until she was laughing and dizzy. They spent the rest of the day walking the property, Brooke pointing out possibilities while Aaron took notes on his phone. She could see it so clearly. The main house restored to its former glory with modern luxuries hidden behind period details. The carriage house converted to spa suites, gardens where guests could wander and find secret sitting areas. We could have a farm-to-table restaurant, she said excitedly. Partner with local farms, change the menu seasonally. And the wine cellar in the basement could be a tasting room. Oh, and what about hosting intimate weddings? We could accommodate up to 100 people with the grounds. Aaron watched her with an expression so tender it made her chest ache. You're incredible. You know that. I'm getting ahead of myself. No, you're seeing the potential and running with it. That's exactly what this project needs. He caught her hand, threading their fingers together. What this project needs is you. That night, her last night in Millbrook, they had dinner at Giovanni's again, coming full circle. Over wine and pasta, they talked logistics. Brooke would need to give notice at her job, probably work there for another month to be professional about it. Aaron would have his lawyers draw up partnership contracts and start the permitting process for the renovations. They'd aim to open in 18 months, an aggressive timeline but doable with the right team. Where will you live during the build? Aaron asked. The property's kind of remote. I haven't thought that far ahead yet. Move to New York, he said. You'll need to be involved in every decision and it's only an hour from the property. Plus, I'm there. Aaron, that's a lot, I know, but you don't have to decide tonight. He signaled for the check. I have one more stop before I take you home. He drove them to Maple Street, parking in front of Brooke's childhood home. The house was dark, her mother staying overnight with friends, and Aaron led her around to the backyard without explanation. There, illuminated by strings of lights he must have hung earlier, was their old treehouse. Or rather, a completely rebuilt version of it, professionally constructed and safe with a small deck and railings. When did you do this? Brooke breathed. Yesterday, while you were helping your mom. I hired a crew and supervised the build myself. He climbed the ladder and extended a hand to help her up. I wanted to give us back something we lost. Inside, the treehouse had cushions and blankets, more string lights, and an old photo he must have gotten from her mother, the two of them at age 13, arms around each other, grinning at the camera. "I can't believe you did this," Brooke said, emotions overwhelming her. "I did it because I'm in love with you," Aaron said quietly. "I know that's crazy. I know it's too soon and too fast, and you probably think I've lost my mind. But I fell in love with you when we were kids, and I fell in love with you all over again the minute I heard your voice on the phone. And every moment since has just made me more certain." Tears streamed down Brooke's face. "Aaron, you don't have to say it back. I'm not trying to pressure you. I just needed you to know before you leave that this isn't casual for me. You're not a rebound or a fling or a nostalgia trip. You're everything." He cupped her face, thumbs wiping away her tears. "So yes, I want you to move to New York. I want to build this hotel with you and see you every day and fall asleep next to you at night. I want all of it, everything with you." "I love you too," Brooke whispered, the words spilling out before she could second-guess them. "I thought I was crazy for feeling this way so fast, but I do. I love you." He kissed her then, deep and claiming, and they sank onto the cushions together. They made out like teenagers in their rebuilt treehouse, hands roaming but clothes staying on, both of them drawing out the anticipation. When Aaron finally pulled back, they were both breathing hard. "Come back to my hotel with me," he said roughly. "Let me do this right." Aaron was staying at a luxury hotel 30 minutes away, and the drive felt both endless and too short. They didn't talk much, the air between them charged with anticipation. His hand rested on her knee, thumb drawing absent circles that made her shiver. His suite was enormous, the kind of space that probably cost more per night than her monthly rent. But Brooke barely noticed the decor because Aaron was kissing her again the moment the door closed, backing her toward the bedroom with intent. "Are you sure?" he asked, even as his hand slid under her sweater. "We can wait if you want." "I don't want to wait," Brooke said, pulling the sweater over her head. "I want you. Now." They undressed each other slowly despite the urgency, learning new territories and old scars. Aaron's body was hard with muscle from his construction work, powerful and lean. He worshipped every inch of her with hands and mouth, taking his time until she was trembling and desperate. When he finally moved over her, into her, Brooke felt something click into place. This was right. He was right. Everything about them together felt inevitable, like they'd been moving toward this moment for 14 years. Afterward, they lay tangled together, sweaty and satisfied. Aaron traced patterns on her shoulder, his touch gentle. "Move to New York," he said again. "Please. I'll help you find an apartment, or you could stay with me. Whatever makes you comfortable. I just want you close." Brooke propped herself up on an elbow, looking down at him. His hair was messy from her fingers, his eyes soft and unguarded. This man who commanded boardrooms and built empires was looking at her like she held his entire world in her hands. "Okay," she said, "I'll move to New York." His smile was brilliant. Yeah, let's do this crazy thing, all of it." He pulled her down for a kiss that quickly turned heated again, and they made love a second time, slower and sweeter. Much later, as she drifted off to sleep in his arms, Brooke thought about the phone number in an old box, the impulse decision to call, the strange and wonderful chain of events that had led her here. Sometimes the universe gave you exactly what you needed, exactly when you needed it. Even if you didn't know you were looking. The next month passed in a blur of logistics and phone calls and planning. Brooke gave notice at her hotel job, trained her replacement, and packed up her Chicago apartment. Aaron flew in twice to help, turning the tedious work of boxing up her life into something fun. They found an apartment for her in Manhattan, a beautiful one-bedroom that Aaron insisted on paying the security deposit for despite her protests. "Business expense," he said. "My partner needs to live somewhere nice. It's tax deductible." "That's not how that works." "It is when you have expensive accountants." She moved to New York in November, and Aaron was waiting at her new apartment with flowers and takeout and a grin that made her heart skip. That night, after they'd unpacked the essentials and christened her new bedroom, Brooke lay with her head on his chest and felt completely at peace. "Welcome home," Aaron murmured, pressing a kiss to her hair. And it did feel like home. Not the apartment, not even the city, but being with him. That was home. The hotel project consumed them in the best way. Brooke spent her days at the property, working with architects and contractors and designers to bring her vision to life. Aaron had assigned her a full team from his company, people who treated her ideas with respect and enthusiasm. She'd worried about being seen as the boss's girlfriend playing at businesswoman, but Aaron's people were consummate professionals who clearly respected his judgment in making her the lead on the project. She saw Aaron every evening, either at his penthouse apartment or hers. They fell into an easy rhythm, cooking together when they had energy, ordering in when they didn't, spending hours talking about everything and nothing. On weekends, they'd drive up to the property together, and Aaron would put on work boots and actually help with construction. His crew clearly used to their billionaire boss getting his hands dirty. "I don't understand how you can do this," Brooke said one Saturday, watching him help frame out new walls in what would be the spa. "You could be golfing with investors or whatever billionaires do on weekends." "This is what I love," Aaron said, pausing to wipe sweat from his forehead. "Building things, making something from nothing. The money's nice, but this is the actual work. Why would I give it up?" She fell more in love with him every day. When he flew them to Colorado to spend Thanksgiving with his parents, she fell even harder seeing him with his family. His mom recognized her from childhood photos and cried with joy. His dad pulled Aaron aside at one point, and Brooke saw them talking seriously before his dad hugged him hard. "He said you're the one," Aaron told her later. "Said he can tell by the way I look at you. He's right." Christmas came, and Aaron surprised her by recreating their childhood creek at his penthouse building's rooftop, complete with a small fountain and fairy lights and a picnic setup. He gave her a necklace with a tiny treehouse charm and a key. "Key to what?" she asked. "My place. I want you to have it. Use it whenever you want or just keep it as a symbol. Either way, what's mine is yours." She gave him a framed copy of the photo from their rebuilt treehouse and burst into tears when he immediately hung it in his bedroom. They made love under the fairy lights with the city glittering around them, and Aaron told her he loved her over and over until the words became their own kind of prayer. The hotel project progressed through winter and into spring. Brooke named it the Lake House Estate, simple and elegant. She hired staff, planned the opening menu with their chef, designed marketing materials. Aaron was involved in the big decisions but let her run the show, trusting her judgment completely. "This is your dream," he'd say whenever she asked his opinion. "I'm just here to support it." But he was so much more than support. He was her partner in every sense, working alongside her, celebrating victories and problem-solving setbacks. When they discovered mold in one wing that required extensive remediation, pushing their timeline back 3 months, Aaron held her while she cried with frustration, and then helped her revise all their opening plans. They made it work, business and relationship coexisting and somehow enhancing each other. Their partnership contracts kept things professional on paper, but everyone who worked with them could see the love there. It showed in the way Aaron's eyes followed her across a room, The way Brooke smiled when he called with ideas, the casual touches and inside jokes that painted their interactions. One evening in May, almost exactly a year after that first phone call, Aaron took Brooke back to the property. The renovations were nearly complete, the main house restored to stunning glory. He led her through rooms she'd designed, pointing out details he loved. "You did this," he said. "You created something amazing." "We did this," she corrected. "No, Brooke, this was your vision. I just provided the canvas." He took her hand, leading her outside to the gardens that were just beginning to bloom. "I have something to ask you." Her heart started pounding because somehow she knew what was coming. Aaron got down on one knee right there in the garden, pulling out a ring box. The diamond caught the evening light, brilliant and perfect. "Brooke Gallagher, you've been my best friend, my partner, and the love of my life. You saw who I could be when we were just kids, and you've made me want to be that person every single day since you called me. Will you marry me?" "Yes," Brooke said, the word coming out as a sob. "Yes, yes, yes." He slid the ring on her finger and stood to kiss her, lifting her off her feet and spinning her around. They were both laughing and crying, and Brooke thought about that slip of paper in an old box, the phone number she'd almost not called. "I can't believe this is my life," she said when they finally pulled apart. "It's our life," Aaron said. "Everything we build from here, we build together." The Lake House estate opened in August to rave reviews. The wedding magazine that covered their soft launch called it an intimate luxury experience that feels like staying at a sophisticated friend's country home. They booked solid through the holidays within 2 weeks of opening, and Brooke had to hire additional staff to keep up with demand. Aaron threw her a celebration party at the hotel, inviting everyone who'd worked on the project plus his parents and Brooke's mother. He gave a speech that made Brooke cry, talking about her vision and dedication and how proud he was to be her partner. "And soon," he added, grinning, "I'll be proud to be her husband." They were married in October at the hotel, naturally. A small ceremony with just family and close friends held in the garden where Aaron had proposed. Brooke wore a simple lace dress and carried wildflowers. Aaron wore a perfectly tailored suit and cried when she walked down the aisle. Her mother officiated, having gotten ordained online specifically for the occasion. And when she pronounced them married, Aaron kissed Brooke like it was just the two of them in the whole world. The reception was held in the main house, intimate and perfect. They danced under the same string lights Aaron had hung in their rebuilt treehouse, and when he pulled her close during their first dance as husband and wife, Brooke thought her heart might burst from happiness. "Thank you for calling," Aaron whispered in her ear. "Thank you for answering," she whispered back. 2 years later, Brooke sat in the garden of their hotel, watching their daughter Emma toddle around chasing butterflies while Aaron supervised with patient attentiveness. Emma had his gray eyes and Brooke's smile, and she was the most perfect thing they'd created together, besides the hotel itself. The Lake House estate had expanded, adding the renovated carriage house and plans for a second location already in development. Brooke split her time between managing the properties and being a mom, while Aaron had taken a step back from day-to-day operations at Zimmerman Global to focus on their projects together and family time. "She's going to be a runner," Aaron said, scooping Emma up as she tried to escape toward the lake. "Just like her mom, always moving forward." "Wonder where she gets that," Brooke said, taking Emma from him for a kiss. Their daughter giggled and grabbed her necklace, the treehouse charm she never took off. They'd built something incredible together, not just the hotel but a whole life. They'd taken a chance on each other, on rekindled childhood friendship becoming something more, on mixing business with love, on believing that sometimes the universe gave you exactly what you needed. That night, after Emma was asleep in the private suite they kept at the hotel, Aaron and Brooke sat on their balcony looking out over the lake. His arm was around her shoulders, her head resting in the crook of his neck, both of them comfortable in the silence that came from truly knowing someone. "Do you ever think about that day you called?" Aaron asked quietly. "About what would have happened if you hadn't, all the time," Brooke admitted. "I could have thrown that number away, could have decided it was too random or embarrassing to call. We could have missed each other entirely. But you didn't. You took a chance." He kissed the top of her head. "Best phone call I've ever received. Changed my entire life. Changed both our lives. Yeah, for the better." He pulled her closer. "I love you, Brooke. Still fall more in love with you every single day. I love you too. My childhood best friend, my business partner, my husband." She lifted her head to look at him. "My everything." He kissed her then, sweet and long and full of promise. Around them, the hotel they'd built together stood elegant and welcoming, a testament to what they could accomplish as a team. Inside, their daughter slept peacefully, proof of the love they'd created. And above them, stars scattered across the sky like possibilities, infinite and bright. They'd found their way back to each other across 14 years and built something neither could have imagined alone. Sometimes the best love stories were the ones you never saw coming, the ones that started with a dusty slip of paper and a phone number that shouldn't have worked but somehow still did. Sometimes fate came disguised as an impulse, as a random decision to call an old friend. And sometimes, if you were very lucky, that old friend turned out to be the love of your life, waiting on the other end of the line for you to finally come home. Brooke had come home, not to a place but to a person, to Aaron. And together, they'd created a home for others too, a beautiful space where people could celebrate love and life and new beginnings. Their own new beginning had started with a phone call. Everything wonderful that came after was just the universe saying, yes, this is right. These two people belong together. Keep building, keep loving, keep choosing each other every single day, and they did. For all the days that followed, they chose each other, again and again. The boy and girl from Maple Street who'd climbed trees and skipped stones, who'd grown up and lost each other and found their way back, who'd taken a chance on rekindled friendship, becoming something infinite, who'd answered when the universe called and said, "Here is your person, here is your home, here is everything you've been looking for. All you have to do is be brave enough to reach out and claim it." Brooke had been brave. Aaron had answered. And everything else was history. The kind written in string lights and hotel suites and a little girl's laughter, in morning coffee and business meetings and stolen kisses in the garden, in all the small moments that added up to a lifetime of choosing love. Their story had started with a number in a box and a billionaire on the other end of the line. But it was so much more than that. It was about two people who'd always been meant to find each other, no matter how many years or miles separated them. About building dreams together and believing in possibilities and taking chances on the kind of love that only comes around once. They'd found it. They'd built it. They'd made it real. And every morning when Brooke woke up next to Aaron, their daughter sleeping down the hall and their hotel welcoming guests just outside, she said a silent thank you to whatever impulse had made her dial that number. To the version of herself who'd been brave enough to reach out across the distance and say, "Remember me. I remember you." The universe had remembered too, and it had been waiting all along to bring them home to each other.